Hi, folks. This is Peter Boyk from #GoRight. I was able to get a quick interview with Senator Scott Jensen, who will be messaging back in just a moment to be added on to this podcast. He's a very busy man. He's a senator, and he's got a few moments to talk. If you've noticed, he is an individual who had questioned what had gone on with the COVID-19 death certificates. And because of his questioning, they are actually trying to pull his license. So I'm right now kind of waiting for him to show up. And running a little behind on schedule today, trying to make a good thing. And we'll probably have him on again in the future. I'm just waiting for him to come in, hopefully here in just a moment. Of course, Facebook gives all sorts of problems when we're trying to do some kind of message of this importance. I will probably play the video of his after the interview. I'm trying to pull up some information now, but Senator Scott Jensen should be in here in just a moment, and he will explain, hopefully for a few moments, what's been going on with him. And so we just got to wait for him to come in. I came in a little early because I wanted to talk. If you notice, folks, when you put out information on the internet, that's just a little different. Than what you expect. What the mainstream wants. They will do everything in their power to limit it to you. Recently, the CDC even said that you can't get this COVID-19 if you're asymmetic, if you haven't shown the symptoms. And that was put out by the CDC. And now, if you try to go find those videos, they have now been scrubbed. The left was all about, well, not so much the CDC, sorry, the World Health Organization, one that said that. And the left was all, you got to listen to the World Health Organization. You got to listen to the World Health Organization. And now that Trump has said, we're not so interested, and now that the World Health Organization has said something different than what the left wants, now they don't really care too much about the World Health Organization anymore. Now they want to start scrubbing their links. I was given a couple of links from a friend of mine from the about on Twitter about these this stuff was going on. And what happened is now those videos are gone because they've somehow broken policy on Twitter, although they were actual video from the WHO. So how is that breaking policy? The policy now states basically on social media that if you say anything different, if you do anything different, then you will be removed. If you say anything, do anything on social media that the social media giants don't like, they will unpublish you. But yet somehow they're able, under Section 230, to not be considered a publisher, but a platform. But they eat their cake and they have it too. Social media has a huge impact on our daily lives. Just recently, they did Roger Stone a few days before he was supposed to report to jail. They decided to use a incorrect assessment by Graphopedia, I think, Graphopedia or Graphics or whatever. It wrote a report about how Roger Stone himself had this large network of people that were doing all sorts of crazy things. Roger himself said, I had nothing to do with these fake accounts. But yet they used that in order to kick Roger Stone off of the platform and thus take away his voice. That is a major problem, folks. That is a major issue. So we have to continue to stride to work towards countering this as much as possible. We have to lean support into and for Donald Trump, because he's the only one, other than maybe Ted Cruz or a couple others, who are going after social media and seeing that social media is such a large venue right now. And it's very, very important that we continuously ensure that social media is protected. So I'm going to go ahead and do my little branding intro. Hopefully he'll be in here in just a moment. I am still waiting on the senator to get in touch with. He's a very busy man, so he probably got a phone call. I'm going to try to give him a call here in just a moment to confirm. Technology is leading here. Let's see. Bear with me just a moment. Again, Senator Scott Jensen should be on here in just a moment to give a talk. This is the first time he's been on, so he may be tied up. He might be having problems with the StreamYard. If I can't get it to work, I will just give him a call here in just a moment, and maybe we can do it through the phone. I would much love to have him on video. Let's try this again. Love modern technology. Bear with me, everybody. I'll play this. I'll be right back.
Something like 1984 could actually happen. This is the direction the world is going in at the present time. In our world, there will be no emotions except fear, rage, triumph, and self-abasement. The sex instinct will be eradicated. We shall abolish the orgasm. There will be no loyalty except loyalty to the party. But always there will be the intoxication of power. Always, at every moment, there will be the thrill of victory, the sensation of trampling on an enemy who is helpless. If you want a picture of the future, imagine a boot stamping on a human face forever.
A teenager in Cook County. Are you familiar with this case?
Well, I'm going to pull up this one information beforehand while I'm waiting for him to come in. This is recent. This was recently posted about COVID-19 deaths, and it goes a lot along with what's been going on here. It's already had 21 million views, but here we go.
Earlier this week, the state reported the death of a teenager in Cook County. Are you familiar with this case? If so, is this the state's first teenage death? And can you tell us if the teenager in question had underlying conditions?
Okay, we're going to get a definition now of how you can determine whether or not someone died with COVID. Very simple.
I don't have that information at my disposal at this time. I know we have had people of all age groups die. I just want to be clear in terms of the definition of people die.
Okay, here comes the definition of death by COVID.
Of COVID. So the case definition is very simplistic. It means at the time of death, it was a COVID positive diagnosis.
That means no matter how you die, as long as you were positive for COVID when you died, you are a COVID death. Even if you got in a car wreck or you fell off a cliff, for whatever reason that you died, as long as you had COVID, it's counted as a COVID death. Listen.
So that means that if you were in hospice and had already been given, a few weeks to live, and then you also were found to have COVID, that would be counted as a COVID death.
There it was. Okay. She's going to make it more simple for us.
Means that if technically, even if you died of a clear alternate cause, but you had COVID at the same time, it's still listed as a COVID death.
So technically, even if you died of an alternate cause, if you had COVID when you died, it's called a COVID death. You wonder why the numbers are messed up.
All right, folks, it looks like we got Senator Jensen in now. Let me bring him in here. Hi, how's it going? Can you hear me?
I can. Thank you, Peter.
All right. Sorry about the delay. I wanted to make sure we had everything in here set up for you.
No problem. We're just going into the Senate caucus now, and then we've got the Senate chamber meeting at noon. So that's an hour away, and I've got to get into caucus. But I'd love to spend a few minutes with you, Peter, so that you can ask me some questions. But I apologize. I won't be able to spend as much time as I would have liked.
Excellent. We'd like to have you on anytime you'd like. So we were just watching a video where they were talking about a little individual. She was talking about COVID deaths, and she was basically saying the point of a COVID death is just considered a COVID death, even if the person didn't die because of COVID. It was kind of shocking. Like if someone jumped off a building and they had COVID, they would say that was a COVID death instead of the pavement. It's just crazy. I was kind of wondering about your situation and what you're going through right now. If you can just give us a quick synopsis of what's going on in your life.
I'd be glad to. Yeah, I saw a little bit of the video that you played, and I believe that came out of Illinois, and that was the public health director that shared that. And what she essentially was saying is just because COVID-19 is identified on a death certificate as the cause of death doesn't mean they died of COVID-19, which on the surface for the average Joe listening would say, well, that's ridiculous. The cause of death on the death certificate should be what the patient died of. And this is just how messed up it's gotten. And this is why Pennsylvania has subtracted a couple hundred COVID-19 deaths from their total. And unfortunately, New York went the other direction. They looked at a delta of or a difference between what they normally would have expected in terms of deaths and how many they had. And they said, well, we have more deaths than we would have expected. So they must have been COVID cases that we didn't pick up. So even though we never did a test on them, we're going to go ahead and add those to our numbers. So in one day, their COVID death count went up 50%. This is problematic. I'm not telling New York what to do, but I'm just saying that this has absolutely muddied the waters around our country and actually around the world. My specific situation is that because I declared that the Department of Health in Minnesota had sent out a communication in the early part of April, indicating that it's appropriate now to go ahead and put COVID-19 down as a cause of death if you think it's probable or assumed or possible or likely, and or if it's a contributing factor. Now, this is not the way I've been doing death certificates for 35 years. I've been doing them always with the greatest amount of respect for precision and specificity. And if you actually look at the CDC's manual to physicians as to how death certificates should be completed, it specifically identifies that a cause of death or the underlying cause of death should be the initiating factor. So that if a person is admitted to a nursing home with congestive heart failure and the shortness of breath increases and the fluid retention increases and the family and patient decide to go on hospice. And so at this point in time, the patient is seen to likely going to be passing from congestive heart failure. And let's say that perhaps the patient develops respiratory distress and is put on oxygen, but nothing more aggressive than that. And then we identify pneumonia. And then a COVID-19 test is found to be positive. Or a COVID-19 test is not even done. In these kinds of situations, from my perspective, it would always be the underlying cause of death would have been congestive heart failure, and a pneumonia would have, or if you will, respiratory distress would have been a complicating factor. Pneumonia would, and you'd end up potentially putting on COVID-19 as a contributing factor, but that goes in a totally different section because in terms of the actual causation of death, the sequencing of it, this patient was dying, and COVID-19 was not the cause of death. Congestive heart failure was. So when I basically raise this as an issue, I have now been accused by someone, and I don't get to face my accuser, but I've been accused of disseminating or spreading misinformation. I've also been complained about in regards to reckless advice. And the reckless advice has to do with the fact that I am willing to compare COVID-19 and influenza. And I think that where I see that as being particularly unfair is Dr. Fauci and Dr. Deborah Birx and Dr. Mike Osterholm and epidemiologists and infectious disease doctors all across our nation and across the world compare COVID-19 to influenza because they're both respiratory viruses. They're both single-stranded RNA viruses. What would we compare it to? Would we compare it to syphilis? Would we compare it to Ebola or tuberculosis? Of course not. We compare it to something that presents in a similar fashion, that has similar symptoms, that does have a latency phase, that does have an incubation period, does have a period of infectiousness. It makes all the sense in the world to compare COVID-19 and influenza, but it doesn't make sense to equate the two because the two are not the same. They're different. And for these reasons, I've been accused, and now my medical license is being investigated by the Board of Medical Practice because of misinformation and reckless advice.
Yeah, that's just seems like what's been going on. I mean, it's the 1984 kind of thing we've been all talking about. You know, it's mind speak. They erase what you did. Early on, I did a YouTube thing about COVID-19 and the vaccines, and what did they do? They took it off, and I'm like, I don't know. I was just talking about studies. People bury the stories all the time. These different agencies come up with different ideas. I mean, now wearing masks, not wearing masks has become the eggs are good for you or they're bad for you by doctors every day. I mean, whatever happened to getting a second opinion with a doctor? Obviously, you're a second opinion. And it just seems like if you don't go with the mainstream view, then what they're trying to do is take you down. Obviously, you're a supporter of the right, and I'm sure you go right like everybody else. It should be. And you have a different opinion. It's not crazy. It's you've got many years behind it. And what they're trying to do is, like a statue, when they knock statues down, they're trying to erase you. They're trying to discredit you. And I'm pretty sure that you are not someone who should be discredited and somebody we have to listen to.
And I think, Peter, one of the things that's really disconcerting is the intense disagreement between the right and the left. And so many people has become so out of hand that what's basically happened in my situation is these are not patients of mine complaining about me. There's no patient care issues. The issue is public comments, and it does appear to be politically motivated. And what's really happening, and this is what I think is so dangerous, is it's really not about me and my medical license. It's really about millions and millions of Americans and any licensure they may hold, whether they're a hairstylist with a license, whether they're a teacher or a nurse, whether they're an insurance agent, whether they're an attorney. What we're seeing is we're seeing regulatory boards and licensing agencies weaponized by frustrated activists who said, well, we can't get Jensen to shut up, and he's not running for re-election, and somehow we want to muzzle him. So what we're going to do is we're going to call his professionalism into question, and maybe we can distract him. And I think they just picked on the wrong guy, because I'm a pit bull and I'm not going quietly into the night. That's why I put that video out there publicly, because this conversation shouldn't be a secret. This conversation is all about America and what we stand for and who we are. And so I said, I'm going transparent with this. I don't want this to be some cloak and dagger secrecy back and forth between me and the Board of Medical Practice. I want people to know, and I'm going to fully cooperate with the Minnesota Board of Medical Practice. But I think every American needs to be engaged. And what I've been flabbergasted by, Peter, is that the video has been seen 10 million times. Mm-hmm. The number of people that have reached out to me from states in the U.S. and countries all over the globe has been incredible. And if I could use your program to simply say this: thank you, citizens of the earth, because you've been so gratifying for my wife and I and my family as you've come up and said, this is wrong, regardless of what a person believes, whether they agree or disagree with me. We can't be behaving like this. We cannot be holding people in contempt. We cannot be trying to find some sidelight way of trying to attack a person. We have got to be better than that. And I think we can be and we should be. But Peter, I apologize. I've got to run. It's a pleasure to meet you, and it's a pleasure to be
Absolutely. It's be great to have you on again when you have a little bit more time, because I'd like to hear about other things in your life and what you're doing, and definitely want to talk to you about our Go Right campaign. And it seems like to me you are going right. You are doing the activism, and you're standing up and being strong and being a good voice. And that's what we need. People, a lot of Republicans, a lot of people on the right don't. They're afraid to speak out. They're unsilent. And it's glad that, they're silent, and it's glad that you are unsilent and being a big voice. So I thank you very much, Senator, for your time. And you have a wonderful day today. It's a great week, as every day. We'll see what's going on this week.
Thank you, Peter.
All right. God bless. Thank you. All right, folks. That was Senator Scott Jensen. And a really cool interview. Great to have a senator to interview today, and we'll be bringing you a lot more news every single day, and hopefully more senators, more Congress people. This is about going right and getting voices out there. Now let's see if my voice is squashed by Twitter or Facebook for putting out and daring to put out a video like this. So thank you for tuning in with Go Right. Peace, everybody. God bless. We're going to do my play out, and I'll be right back to say thank you for tuning in.
Billions and 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 billions and
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
God bless everybody. Peace.